Right, so we're learning Rabbi Sai Hilchos Firas Ha'omer in the middle of a very interesting Sif Daled. Sivan Tov Pei Tes, Sif Daled, page 190. We discussed yesterday somebody who is asked by his friend, what day of the Omer is it? You must be careful not to answer, today is the 15th of the Omer. Rather, you should say, yesterday was the 14th, because the concern maybe that'll be considered as if he's counted already. And the remark continues in the bottom of the page, the last word. Once the time for Omer has kicked in, when it is the time for Omer has begun, then a person mustn't eat until he counts the Sfira. And even if he began to eat at that time, he has to stop the Sefer in order to count. However, if he began eating before the time for Omer arrived, he doesn't need to stop. He finishes his meal, and he can count after that. But, as the Shulchan Aruch Ramah is telling us, if the time for Omer came, the Omer will not begin to eat. If he did begin to eat, he must stop in order to count. What does this mean? Now, we've discussed a number of times. Ideally, the Omer is recited at Nacht, Seis HaKichovim. It could also be recited from Shkia. You can count already from then if necessary. And at even more of a press from Plaga Mincha, discussed in the Bialocha. So this Issa, to eat, is when there's proper time to count, which is from Seis HaKichovim, from Nacht. Says the Mishnah Berurah Got Nechav Gimel. When the time comes to count the Omer, that means Seis HaKichovim. When it's Seis HaKichovim, a person at that time can't begin to eat. Even if he's already said Shema, he's already davened. Nevertheless, he can't begin to eat. He can't eat. If he does eat, he has to stop eating. Because if he's not said Shema and hasn't davened anyway, he can't eat because of the issue of eating before Shema and Shemona Esrei. The Achronim say that even at the Paskina and the Elba Siman Reish Lamed Hey, Nachem Bechatzi Shah Kodim Azman, but in Hacha Yishtondu Lehachmish Lelechem Bechatzi Shah Hasamach Lesfira B'Chola. In fact, say the Achronim that a person based on halachos and Siman Reish Lamed Hey, that not only when it comes the time for Nacht, one may not eat even half an hour beforehand. One shouldn't eat to ensure that he will not miss out on saying the Sfira. The poskim say, however, it says that that's only this to eat is not like a fast, not like a tanis. Rather, it means not to have a kibitza, an eggs amount of bread, which is approximately a slice of bread, or maybe half a slice of bread if you want to be more machmir, or mashka mashaka, or a drink which makes a person has alcohol, etc. But just a snack, that's fine. Yeah. Additionally, there are those who are makel, as says in Dosha 61, that one can be makel if one has a fixed minyan afterwards that he always goes to. There's no concern of forget to count the Omer, and therefore will be allowed to eat, although it is already after Seis HaKichovim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if he's davened early, nevertheless, he should not eat within half an hour of Nacht, because it may forget to count the Omer. If there's a custom that there's a gabber who comes around knocking on everyone's door, no, Sfira, well, if that's the case, then one needn't be strict. If it's in half an hour before Nacht, one can eat at that time, one can rely on this gabber who's going to come around and wake everyone up and make sure everyone says Sfira. And the Jew should bring from this in Karelis that if a person appoints a specific shomer just for him, then he can even eat when it's after time, when it's ready Nacht, because he has asked somebody specifically to be his shomer, So again, not only can we not eat from the time of Nacht because if we haven't counted Omer, and that's even if, of course, we've davened Shema, said Shema and davened Ma'ariv, but even in half an hour before, also not to eat, as we said, a fixed type of food, a significant amount of food, as we've said before. And but if a person has a fixed minyan later, or he's got a shomer, that would be okay. And Mishnah Berurah says if he has a shamash knocking around, he needs to be allowed to eat in that half an hour at least. Not after the half an hour, but at least in that half an hour. Sivkon Chav Dalet. Lechel, a person can't eat before Adin Shavuot. Other activities also can't be done once we've hit the time to count. As brought here, Dirshu 63, for example, to have a haircut, to wash, to go to tannery, etc. These are activities which are forbidden. Take a look at Dirshu 63. Right. So, and what happens if a person began to eat after Nacht? He has to stop. So if he has to stop, get up, stand up, as we learned, you stand up for the Omer, and count the Omer. So this is according to the man the Omer who says that when a Torah we have to count nowadays. If I got, like the Ramah points out, and therefore the Didon, practically speaking, us. So in Octina we take on Sfira B'zman Hazeh D'Rabbanan. The Sfira Sa'im is only D'Rabbanan. It's not Min HaTorah. If so, in a place, if you're in the middle of your meal, even if you started after Nacht, you don't have to stop. Because it's a mitzvah D'Rabbanan, not a mitzvah Min HaTorah. I'm based in Mincha. There's Ma'achronim Sheikos was the Achronim who write that if you therefore Choshesh Ramah B'Inyaninu L'Hachmir K'Osidea Shubed HaTorah. So why others say, they say, do you know why the Ramah says you have to stop eating, although you started? Why do you have to stop? It's only Mr. D'Rabbanan, and therefore generally speaking, Mr. D'Rabbanan, you don't have to stop if you started eating already. Yeah, but since it's only an easy thing to do, it's very simple to stand up and count the Omer, make a brach, count them, it takes a minute or two. Therefore, given Shudavar She'em B'Torach Klal is an issue which is not any bother. L'haftik me'at for this period to pause and to count the Omer, and therefore the Ramah says, although it's only a D'Rabbanan, the Ramah says over here that the person, even if you began eating, should stop and count the Omer if you began to eat after Nacht. Sivkot Nechav Keidu Shehi Hazman. The female shekosavnu le'el demechatzi shah samach l'zman maschera isa v'shachti l'dele mark she's chadeichel b'yesem mechatzi shah keidu mazvan. Says the Mishnah Berurah, according to what we said before, even if a person began to eat within half an hour before Nacht, then he has to stop eating when the time comes. He has to stop eating in order to count the Omer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot Chav Zayin. However, if he started eating before this half an hour period, then he doesn't have to stop eating to count the Omer in the middle of his meal. Since when he began his meal, there plenty of time to count. He doesn't have to stop even when the time comes to the time of Nacht comes. So the Ramah has told us here that when the time comes to count the Omer, a person shouldn't eat. B, if he did it, he has to stop and count the Omer. If he began to eat before that time, then he doesn't have to stop in order to count the Omer. The Mishnah Berurah brings down this half an hour before Nacht also has a din of after Nacht. Generally speaking, one shouldn't begin a meal within half an hour of Nacht. One has to still count the Omer. Snack is okay. Also, if a person has a shomer or fixed minion, that would also be okay. Sifei. I was once in Eretz Yisrael, a chasna, and the person next to me was eating, and he remembered he hadn't had a married. So he said to me, Moshe Baruch, we'll just make sure I daven married. I didn't want to daven married in the middle of a meal. I said, okay, I'll be a shomer. Yeah, no problem, I'll be a shomer. And he carried on eating. Then there was the droshes, and then the dancing and benching. And at 12:30, when I left that hall, I was walking down the road, and I suddenly thought, that fellow next to me, I forgot to make sure he hasn't been married. So I managed to get hold of his number. I went to a phone box. There weren't mobiles in those days, and I rang him up, and he said he was just about to go to bed, and he hasn't been married yet. And he's so thankful that I remembered to make sure to ring him and to make sure that he davens married. See, hey. If a person doesn't know what day it is it the 12th, the 13th? 12th, 13th? Not sure. So what does he, and he's davening with others. Pasach, he begins the bracha, adata de l'sayim, k'moshish mechem chavera. He's going to finish his bracha, and by the time he finishes his bracha, he'll know what Omer is because his friend is counting at the same time. But Shosak, and he stays quiet till his friend says what night it is. And then he says the Omer correctly. Yotza. He fulfills his obligation to count the Omer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, he began the bracha. At the time he made the bracha, he didn't know what Omer it was. But by the time he got to the end of the bracha, he then heard his friend and he knew which one to count. It's a sim kamoy yot to got of tesra. So after bracha is considered he counted and he counted with the bracha. Because he began the bracha with understanding, he's going to complete it according to the number his friend says. But it's got proper end and beginning. Nevertheless, it's not a way to count unless you know which day you're counting. Why? Also, because inevitably there's going to be a gap, a space between when you finish a bracha and you count the day, because at that point you're listening to your friends counting of the Omer. We're listening to see which day he's up to, and only then you can count your day because you're copying him and you're saying the bracha at the same time as him. There's going to be a pause after your bracha to when you know what night it is to count. So therefore, don't begin the bracha if you don't know what night you are counting. The Shatzian Lamed Zayin says this is what the Chai Adam says. And according to the reason of the Chai Adam, if there's going to be a no time delay between the end of your bracha and saying the right day, for example, let's say he's a bit ahead of you, he's saying his bracha and he's counting 10 seconds earlier. So therefore, by the time you finish your bracha, you'll have heard which day to count and you count straight away. It shouldn't be a problem. However, says the Shatzian, the Taz says a different reason, perhaps even a more fundamental reason why one shouldn't count in this way. Says the Taz, one shouldn't count if one doesn't know the number, because that's not considered counting. You should know what day it is before you start the bracha. You should be confident and know what day you're counting, how you're fulfilling this mitzvah before you begin to say the bracha. And if that's the case, then one should never do this, make a bracha and then wait to find out what day it is. That's not a way to conduct a sefira. A sefira means to count. And we should discuss here what's the din if somebody doesn't know what day is he and he counts, but as a suffix, he's not sure. He says Hayom is 14, it might be 40, it might be 15. Is he Yaitza or not? It's discussed over here. Some hold that's not considered a sefira. A sefira is when you count, you have to know what you're counting. You can't count in a way which a person's not sure at all what you're counting. That's not called counting, it's not called a sefira. Says the Shulchan Aruch Sivan, in Pasach v'Omar Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. Interesting Sif. A person began the Omer and the bracha, and he said the bracha Adata Tadema Hayom Arba'ah, with the understanding it was the fourth night. Shu Sova Shem Arba'ah, he thought it was the fourth night of the Omer. But in this case, he remembers, 1 second, it's the fifth, the Siyam B'Chamisha. And at the end of the day, he said the right number. Hayom Chamisha is the fifth night. Shulchan Aruch says that's okay. Again, although when he recited the bracha, he thought it was the fourth night, nevertheless, he has recited a bracha. And at the end of the day, he said it was the fifth night, which it is, and he's Yaitza. Here's Yaitza. I think that's quite understood. Don't forget, the mitzvahs can be performed even without reciting a bracha. Ideally, one only performs a mitzvah when one recites the bracha. If a person fulfills a mitzvah without reciting a bracha, the mitzvah is fulfilled. Similarly here, he said it's the fifth day, though he didn't say though when he made the bracha, he didn't know it was the fifth day. Nevertheless, he said it's the fifth day, and his Yaitza doesn't have to count again. Now the Shulchan Aruch says a massive, tremendous chiddush. Or the other way around. Shehem Arba, it was the fourth night. With Pasach, and he began his bracha Adata Tadema Arba. He thought it was the fourth night. It was the fourth night, and he began his bracha with understanding he wanted to say the fourth night. V'tah, he made a mistake. As he was after the bracha, for some reason or other, he said V'siyam b'chamisha. He said Hayom Chamisha Yom La'omer. It's really the fourth night. But when he said the bracha, he knew it was the fourth night. For some reason, though, when he actually counted the words Hayom Chamisha La'omer, came out of his mouth, he counted the wrong night. Nevertheless, he fulfills his mitzvah and he doesn't make a bracha again. This is very strange. It sounds from the Shulchan Aruch, a person can fulfill the mitzvah, counting the Omer, even if you count the wrong number. If when you recited the bracha, you knew what number you should be reciting. Massive chiddush. You counted the wrong number. You counted 5. Massive chiddush. When Achronim, as we'll see, disagree with this. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Sikot Lamed Beis. Achronim Tomo al Zeh. Sikot Lamed Aleph. He counted 5. It was day 4. He counted 5. Since he said the bracha, he knew what the right day was. He's yaitza. What do you mean he counted 5? They counted the wrong number. Pele. Achronim not Tomo Zeh. Achronim, they wonder about this. To Bishlam, I understand. But in the first case, Shasim b'chamish v'chamisha. At the end of the day, he counted the right night. I can understand his yaitza. Shai Sipa Kedin said the right number. Although when he said the bracha, he thought it was 4. Never mind. It doesn't matter. Even without a bracha, a person can fulfill the mitzvah as long as you say the right day. I will say in this last case, how does it help us? The fact that when he made the bracha, he knew it was 4. Yeah. You said the wrong number. This Kirman, they conclude to possess or they disagree. He said if a person counts the wrong number, regardless of his intent when he made the bracha, he has to count again with the bracha. His first bracha was invalid, given to see because he concluded with the wrong day. Unless he remembered within the time it takes to say Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Meir within 2 seconds or so. If he corrects himself, that means actually at the end of the day he said Hayom Chamishi Yom La'omer, Hayom Arba Yom La'omer. That's okay. And in fact, with that oid, after the Shulchan Aruch Ma'ir debeis Abrocha Yedei Yom Esfira Berach Adata this V'Kel Hagen, Elishach Hakach Tav Sim Shalei Hagen. Although the Shulchan Aruch talking about case when he made the bracha, he knew what day to say. He knew it was 4, and some reason or other he slipped up and said 5. The Shulchan Aruch says you're yaitza, and Achronim say you're not yaitza unless you correct yourself straight away and say today is 4. Abu Kam Achronim Eskiu, many Achronim say the Avim Beis HaBracha Hayadata Gamkein Aliyim Achet. Even if when he made the bracha he thought it was 5, and he actually counted 5. If at the end of the day, within 2 seconds, he corrected himself. Within 3 words worth, he corrected himself and said, he said the bracha, understanding it was a 5th day, which is a mistake. He then counted the understanding it was a 5th day, which is a mistake. And immediately he corrects himself. He's yaitza, because at the end of the day, he said the right sefira. So really, the Shulchan Aruch, who says you can be yaitza by saying the wrong sefira, provided when you made the bracha, you had the right intent. The Achronim disagree with it. They say you have to always count the right sefira, and if you did count the wrong sefira, as long as you correct yourself within Toichdei Dibur, within the amount of time it says to say Shalom Aleichem Rabbi or Rabbi Amoiri, then they corrected themselves. That's okay. Oid Kosfer, additionally, they say Dim Tov, if a person makes a mistake and he says Hayom Yom Revi Ba'omer, today is the 4th day of the Omer. And straight away he says Nizka Shayim Chamishi. Remember, it's the 5th day. It's enough to say Chamishi Ba'omer. It's good enough to say that today 5th day of the Omer. That means he said today is the 4th day of the Omer, 5th day of the Omer. That's okay. Although he didn't say today is the 5th day, since he corrected himself within Kedei Dibur. Now, this is interesting. Again, Mishnah Berurah is saying over here, a person by mistake said Hayom Yom Revi Ba'omer, Hayom Chamishi La'omer. Without repeating the word Hayom, that is okay. Interesting, because we had a few weeks ago, was it last week, we said if a person says by mistake Mekadesh, instead of saying Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim in davening, he said by mistake Mekadesh HaShabbos Yisrael Vazmanim, and the din is there. We said that that's no good. It's only if you say Mekadesh HaShabbos and correct yourself Mekadesh Yisrael. Again, only if you say Mekadesh HaShabbos and correct yourself again, say Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim. Is it okay? If you just add the word Yisrael Vazmanim, it's no good. And yet here we're saying if a person says Hayom Yom Revi Yom Chamishi, it's okay. It's okay, even if you didn't say the word Hayom in between. So the Dirshulah points out, and it seems quite understandable. Over there, a person, he said Mekadesh HaShabbos. If he doesn't repeat the word Mekadesh, he just says Yisrael Vazmanim, it would sound like he's saying Mekadesh HaShabbos Yisrael Vazmanim. And that's incorrect. It's not Shabbos. It's only Yom Tov. So therefore, the only way to correct yourself is to go back and say Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim. However, here, if a person says Hayom Yom Revi Yom Chamishi, it's clear that by saying Yom Chamishi, he's trying to retract it as Yom Revi, because it can't be both Yom Revi and Yom Chamishi. So even if he didn't say Hayom in between, it would still be considered as if he's retracted and rescinded on his Yom Revi, and he would be Yaitza. So again, the Shulchan Aruch over here says that the Shulchan Aruch, the beginning, the first part of Shulchan Aruch is of a person that says the bracha, and the end of the day says the correct Omer by listening, although when he said the bracha, he thought it was day 4, and then only when he actually recited it, he said day 5, he was Yaitza. Everybody agrees to that. Shulchan Aruch says another chiddush, which is a tremendous chiddush, which is the other way around as well. If a person, when he made the bracha, knew what day it was, and knew it was day 4, and for some reason they actually said day 5, he's also Yaitza. The Achronim disagree with that. They said, how can you be Yaitza if you say the wrong day? And they say, however, but they do hold that a person can correct himself within Toif Kedei Dibur. The Halacha brings a different pshat in this sif. The Halacha says from the Taz that the Mechaber never meant that. The Mechaber never meant that he actually was Messiah, actually said the wrong day. While when it's Shulchan Aruch says Sivan b'chamisha, it means he completed the bracha with the understanding to say chamisha. Therefore, the Taz says that if a person who says the bracha, provided either at the beginning of the bracha or the end of the bracha, he knows what day he's counting, and he counts the right day, he's Yaitza. But according to the Taz, therefore, if a person says the bracha and throughout the bracha he thought of the wrong day, he will not be Yaitza even if he makes the correct count, and that's discussed in the Biur Halacha. But again, the Mishmur doesn't learn like that. Mishmur learns Mechaber, where they explained it, and the Achronim disagree with the second half of the Mechaber, according to the Mishmur learns. Sivan, Shochach v'lei berach kol halayla. A person forgot and didn't make Sphira the whole night. Again, when it says Barach here, it doesn't mean he didn't make the Brach on the Sphira, he didn't count the whole night. And we know a person should ideally count the beginning of the night, because to be most, we want to have the entire day in front of us when we count the Omer. So the entire night he didn't count. Nevertheless, he can still count during the day below Bracha without a Bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Cotton Damat Gimel, yes, but we can still count during the day. Because that's how a place can do the Yevad, many places can hold that, but the Yevad counting during the day is also sufficient. But he doesn't have the bracha. Some say, because the others say Sphira should be done at night, it doesn't make a bracha if one counts during the day. And when he makes a bracha during the day, it's a Ravatala according to them. Can he continue to count with the bracha? This is quite famous. Sefer Kol Halayla B'Bracha can continue to count with the bracha. But I have a kadidig echad legamri sheinu sefer b'bracha kedichamet. If a person misses the one day, I completely can't continue to count with the bracha. If he didn't count to the night, but caught up in the day, and said that without a bracha, he can continue the subsequent days to count with a bracha. The reason for this, as the Shatzin explains, is because of a fake doubled out. Because first of all, there's a question of if every day of the Omer is an independent mitzvah or it's one big mitzvah. If it's one big mitzvah, then if you miss one day, you shouldn't be able to count the other days. And if it's independent mitzvahs, even if you miss one day completely, you could continue counting with the bracha on the next day, because each day is independent. So the Shulchan Aruch is taking on here that since A, could be that every day of the Omer is independent, and B, even if it's one big mitzvah, the Omer is one big mitzvah, nevertheless, he did count sometime during the day. It could be Yaitza, we have a Sfeik, and you can continue to count with the bracha, you're still considered in. The Biur Halacha adds over here, if similarly, if someone's got a suffix, if he counted or not, then he can also continue to count. So I'm going to discuss more about this. Again, as I said, the Biur Halacha says, the person's got a suffix if he counted during the day. He's got a suffix in the day, whether he counted at night or not, he can also continue to count. But the main thing is the Shulchan Aruch is telling us that if a person didn't count at night, he should count during the day without a bracha and continue to count with a bracha. So again, 3 things we saw today. A, we discussed the issue of eating once the time of Nacht comes, the times to count the Omer, even half an hour beforehand. B, we discussed somebody who made a bracha without knowing which day it was, and he finished off. By the time he finished, he knew what day it was, which is the Mishmur says not ideal, but if you do so, it'll be Yaitza. And also saw in Sivan, the person began the bracha not knowing which day it was, and thinking it was a different day, and at the end of the day, he said the right day is Yaitza. Shulchan Aruch holds even the other way around. Even if when he said the bracha, he knew what day to recite, for some reason he recited it, said the wrong day. It's also Yaitza, and on that, the Achronim disagree, unless he corrects himself. Thank you.